In today's video, we will reveal the most viral magic performances, from Kevin's mind transmission trick, to Xavier's body split illusion. As a bonus, we will also be covering Dustin's impossible card trick, Aiden's costume prediction, and Xavier's shopping cart levitation. Without any further ado, let's begin. Xavier's superhuman shopping trick. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. This magic clip begins with Xavier being balanced by his assistant on a shopping cart and two bags placed on the cart to support his balance. After achieving the balance required, he tightens his abs more and his assistant lifting him is told to let go. Thereafter, the cart where his legs are hanging is taken away and Xavier appears to be levitating, and as he kicks his feet in the air, the cart he is holding onto moves forward. As the cart moves, we notice him releasing his right hand while his left hand has a tight grip on the cart. Well, how did he do it? Here is the secret. This trick involves a hidden ploy, a bit of stitching two different videos together. At the beginning of the video where Xavier's assistant lifts him, he seems to be in distress and his body appears to be slightly bent. After some seconds, two bags are placed in the cart he is holding onto. Right after the second bag is placed at the base of the cart, a cross mark made by the skidding tires of the shopping cart is visible. That moment is where the first video ends, the video stitching takes place, and the second video begins. Xavier uses the cross mark as a reference point which helps him to edit the two videos together. At the point where the stitching occurs, we notice that the light changes slightly in the video. After the video stitching, a setup is done off camera. In the setup, he conceals his left arm in his hoodie. In place of his left arm, he camouflages a rod as an artificial limb to hold the shopping cart. The rod extends from his prosthetic arm to his lower body to help him float in the air. Also, before the camera cut, we observed that the handbag and school bag seem light while his assistants are carrying them. To maintain his balance, we observe that the frame of the cart Xavier is holding is thicker than that of the cart his legs are resting on. The cart he is holding is constructed with a thick frame to hold his weight and help him maintain his balance. In addition, the handbag and school bag after the camera cut were switched with heavy weights disguised as bags. Therefore it prevented the shopping cart from tipping over. While Xavier is inside the shopping mall, we can see the obvious difference between both of his hands. His left hand is clearly fake. Furthermore, as mentioned earlier, the magician's prosthetic left arm is rooted to the cart and it remains the same when he enters the store. Keeping in mind our explanation that the left arm is rooted to the cart, we appear to face a contradiction. This is because after several frames, we notice his left hand is no longer rooted and he is moving it freely. Well, if you observe closely you will quickly realize that this particular scene has been mirrored. The words on the sign above him are inverted, whereas we don't see any inversion in the other parts of the video. The magician purposely flipped the scene under discussion to make it seem like none of his arms are rooted to the shopping cart. Dustin Tavella's impossible prediction. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. Dustin's mind-blowing trick begins with him laying a deck of cards on a table in perfect order, and then placing them in a transparent box. He then passes the transparent box to Howie, so he can mix the cards up and dump them on the table. With the cards dumped on the table haphazardly, the magician spreads them out across the table. Amazingly, the cards that are spread on the table correlate with predictions he had documented before the show. Firstly, just as he had predicted, the number of cards facing up happens to be 21. Secondly, 10 of the cards that are face-up cards are black. Thirdly, 8 of the aforementioned black cards are clubs, and all of the red cards are hearts like his predictions. Unfortunately, out of all the hearts, one of them turned out to be a 10 of diamonds. Dustin then requests that his toddlers be brought to the stage, and on their shirts was an instruction. The audience raises the cardboard placed beneath their seats. The phrase on the cardboard insinuates that all the red cards are hearts, except for the 10 of diamonds. Well, how did he do it? Here is the secret. The initial deck Dustin spreads on the table is a normal deck with no gimmicks, and therefore he showed both sides of the cards while doing the ribbon spread. However, there's a camera cut, and the cut is initiated right after he squares up his deck of cards and reaches for the transparent box. At the moment of the camera cut, the magician moves to his right to perform a deck switch utilizing a switch bag that hangs at the edge of a table. After he swaps the deck, the camera turns back to him, and in his hands is a switch deck of gimmick cards. After throwing the gimmick cards into the transparent box, we notice that Dustin does not allow Howie to have physical contact with the cards. Instead, he instructs the judge to toss the cards out on the table. As a result, the judge can't discover that the cards are gimmicked. Once the cards are tossed on the table, the magician spreads them out across the table as cleanly as possible and continues his showmanship. Now the question is, how exactly are the cards gimmicked? Out of a total of 52 cards, 21 of these cards are double-faced. This means the face of the card is the same on both sides. While the other 21 are double-backed, here is how a double-backed card looks like. In the first prediction in the book, it is documented that 21 cards are faced up, which aligns with the 21 face-up cards on the table. No matter the number of times the cards are flipped, there will always be 21 face-up cards because they will always appear facing up. Similarly, the remaining 21 cards will always appear to be facing down. His second prediction states that 10 of the face-up cards are black, which implies that he deliberately included 10 blacks in the 21 double-faced cards. Out of these 10 blacks, he made sure 8 of them were clubs and the remaining 2 were spades. So that in his third prediction, when he predicted 8 of the blacks to be the clubs, we already know his setup. The same setup was done to predict all the cards were the hearts except for the 10 of diamonds, by deliberately adding 10 double-faced hearts and 1 double-faced 10 of diamonds. Therefore, he was in control of the outcome the entire time, since it was forced. Xavier's insane body split illusion. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. The trick begins with a wire stretched behind him that cuts through him. He's then held to prevent his upper body from falling off while his assistant grabs him a hemi-cane and metal signboard. Thereafter, he instructs his assistant to slide the signboard into his body and he's flipped from side to side. The magician's detached upper body is carried meters away on the signboard from its initial position and placed on the ground. Moments after, his legs and upper body are placed on a bicycle. Right before his legs are carried, his left leg moves due to reflex. While his lower and upper limbs are on the bike in front of one another, he asks his assistants to hold the bike to help him balance. Afterward, Xavier can be seen riding the bicycle successfully with his body detached without falling off. Well, how did he do it? Here is an explanation. Xavier's bicycle split illusion comprises of 3 tricks, and it starts with an illusion of the wire passing through his body. The magician uses 2 identical wires to perform this trick, by tucking the first wire into his pants and setting the tips of the wire behind his waist. However, the second wire, which is initially shown to be the one going behind his back, is switched for the first wire that was already inside the waist of his pants. His assistants grab the tips of the first wire behind his waist and pull it out slowly. In case of Xavier's performance, the first wire, rather than being tucked into his pants as mentioned earlier, is planted under an artificial skin he is wearing. This makes it seem like the wire cuts through his body. This signboard is placed into the already slit artificial skin and not through his body. When Xavier performs a T-cut illusion, he appears to have his upper body flipped from side to side. This is executed using a light plastic shell that held the artificial skin in place. Therefore, what Xavier is really doing is bending his body, while the shell keeps the upper half of his body in shape. In the part of the video where he seems to be taken off the hemi-cane to the ground, the camera is purposely moved closer to him. This is done to make us believe his assistant is carrying his upper body and prevent us from seeing him walk away from the hemi-cane. When camera finally zoomed out, we observed that there is an abnormally large bump that wasn't in his stomach area when the camera finally shows the rest of his supposed upper body. That odd bump is a result of his knees being tucked underneath the shell. Xavier got into this point when the camera was zoomed in on him. The color of his jeans is slightly deeper, as compared to the jeans shown after his supposed upper body was detached. Therefore, these legs on the hemi-cane are fake legs that were placed when the camera was zooming in on Xavier. The fake left leg is moving not due to impulse, but because Xavier's assistants are pulling a thin thread tied to its foot. His assistants then carry his knees tucked upper body to place him on the bicycle. After which an obvious camera cut occurs when the signboard is removed. The focus of the camera is turned to the ground. At the moment of the camera cut, we discover a sudden change in the color of the grass. The grasses are blurry at first, then they suddenly become clear and focused. During the camera cut, the bicycle setup was done. Xavier appears to be sitting on the bicycle's backseat with his lower body detached and pedaling the bicycle. Whereas in reality he is positioned like so. Additionally, the upper part of the jeans is a fake structure that's attached to the bicycle seat. Furthermore, there is no footage of him cycling for a considerable distance in the clip. This is because he has an off-camera assistant that helps him maintain his balance for a small interval of time, since Xavier is not holding the bicycle handles to steer his way. Kevin Miku's mind transmission trick. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. Kevin's tricks begin with him inviting Terry Crews onto the stage. Then he walks over to the judges and picks up a picture deck consisting of AGT finalists and asks the female judges, Sophia and Heidi, to pick one each, remember it, and place it under their cups without showing it. Sophia chooses a magician, Shin Lim, while Heidi chooses a singer, Cody Lee. The magician extracts Terry's mind, grabs the thoughts of the female judges, puts them in Terry's mind, and performs a mind transmission. Thereafter, he gives Terry a board and a pen to write down the names of the finalists chosen by the judges. The names Terry writes on the board match the names of the finalists chosen by the judges. When he asked the female judges to pick a photograph at the beginning of his showmanship, he left a photograph card of himself under Simon's cup. At the end of his showmanship, he asks Simon to reveal the picture card, and it contains the predictions of the singer and the magician. Well, how did he do it? Here is an explanation. When the magician approaches the judges, he clearly showed that the pictures were different from one another by spreading them. However, this picture deck is based off the Destiny deck concept. This means each of the photo cards contains 2 photo cards that are stuck together in pairs. The double cards stay stuck together when he spreads them because of roughing fluid. But they can be easily separated if one wishes to intentionally. Usually, a Destiny deck contains just one forced card. But in this trick, Kevin forces the 2 photo cards he wants the judges to pick. To make his trick work, the picture cards of the singer are attached evenly to one half of the picture deck, while the other half of the deck has picture cards of the magician attached to them. Since he forced the 2 pictures to be selected on the judges, he put his prediction card under the cup, as he was in control of selections the entire time. In addition, Kevin ensures that he spreads the top half of the picture deck to one judge, and the bottom half to the other judge, so the judges select the 2 different force cards. A light can be seen in the magician's hand when he claims to extract Terry's mind. This light is a thumb tip that has an LED light in it, which makes it shine brightly. Also, while he is extracting Terry's mind, there is a camera cut. During the cut, the magician gets a hold of a holographic fan which displays a floating 3D image of what he claims to be Terry's brain. He programmed the holographic fan with several effects before the show to make it align with his tricks. A holographic fan produces a 3-dimensional image seemingly floating in the air, using the principle of persistence of vision. It is composed of strips of RGB LEDs attached to the blades of the fan, and a control unit lighting up the pixels, such that the pixels light up exactly at a fixed point as the blades spin, to create an apparent floating image. Now the question is, how did Kevin make sure Terry thought of Shin Lim and Cody Lee? To make sure he knew what Terry should think of during the show, Kevin did a little pre-show work. Similar to how Kevin had the 2 female judges select Shin Lim and Cody Lee, he used the same forcing technique using the picture deck to have Kevin select and remember only those 2 selections. Kevin then instructed Terry before the show to write the 2 names he is thinking of on the board when asked to do so. This concept is known as dual reality. In our reality, we thought the 2 names Terry chose was his free choice, whereas in Terry's reality he was simply following the instructions given to him by Kevin before the show. Aidan McCann's costume prediction. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. Aidan's showmanship starts with Terry Crews choosing a card from his deck and putting the card in his pocket without looking. Following that, the magician presents a drawing of himself as a superhero, drops it before the judges, and walks back to the stage. He then blindfolds himself and requests that the host looks through it to confirm that he can't see through it. With that confirmed, the magician blindfolds himself and asks the judges to color the picture with the set of markers on the desk before them. The color of the marker the judges chose was entirely a free choice. After all the judges are done coloring, the magician takes off his blindfold and claims he had predicted the exact color pattern done by the judges. To prove his claim of predicting the right color pattern, he takes off his suit, and underneath it is a superhero costume that matches that of the superhero colored by the judges, with the name Titan Jr. written on it. The host also takes off his suit, and underneath is a costume with the same color pattern as Aidan with Titan written on it. Well, how did he do it? Here is the secret. At the beginning of his trick, Aidan asks the host to pick a card, after which he uses the slip force. He did this by placing his thumb on the left corner of the deck and his index finger coiled on the back of the deck. Also, with his middle, ring, and pinky finger, he applies pressure on the side of the deck. Then he riffles down the side of the deck with his thumb till Terry says stop. Once Terry utters the word stop, Aidan pulls out the upper deck from the other side, excluding the topmost card. Thereafter, he slides the topmost card, and executes the card force successfully. We know for a fact that the color markers were chosen freely by the judges and no force was needed. But if we observe the performance closely, you will quickly realize the particular article of clothing to be colored was not selected freely by the judges. Instead, Aidan instructed what article of clothing to be colored after the color marker was selected.
Simon, please pick up any marker. Can you, with that mark, color in the cape for me?
Now the question is, how was Aiden able to know what color was selected by the judges? He was completely blindfolded. As it turns out, the magician's blindfold isn't just a blindfold. It is in fact a Bluetooth blindfold. To make it less suspicious, its button layer is covered. The magician has an assistant sitting amongst the audience with a cell phone connected to the blindfold's Bluetooth. His assistant has clear visuals of the color each of the judges chooses, and passes the information to his ears through the Bluetooth blindfold. So that even though the color of the marker was freely selected, Aiden made sure the correct clothing was colored.